Strengthening Families is an approach. It's a way of thinking. It's not a model program. There's not one way you can do it. There are many different ways, many different kinds of professionals and many different kinds of completely non-professionals can participate in it. We were looking for a way to build on the strengths of families, not just on identifying everything that's wrong with people, but using the research that we already have to develop a positive way to give a message to everybody.
The incorporation of strengthening families into a statewide effort really came out of some thinking that we were doing about doing a statewide child abuse prevention plan. When we were thinking about what we wanted to do around a statewide prevention plan, we really wanted to think about prevention as being something different than just saying don't do something. We wanted it to be a more positive take, and the Strengthening Families initiative was something that we looked at and said, you know, that's an interesting and a more positive way of thinking about prevention. The protective factors are things that we can incorporate into a lot of the other work that we do.
More than 80 stakeholders came together and developed goals and objectives and strategies to address child abuse and neglect prevention, and that plan serves as a framework for us.
What makes Strengthening Families different is that it's a collaborative approach to focusing on a broad vision.
It gets health to the table, it gets social work and prevention, it gets substance abuse, it gets that financial piece. So it really is a comprehensive way to look at it from a family piece rather than a siloed or a segmented funding stream.
It was sort of like the front line of defense. You had all the different social service agencies, you had the nonprofit groups, you had law enforcement involved, and they were all connected at one table.
It's a very cost-effective way of getting child abuse and neglect prevention into all of our work. There isn't a specific program or a specific model. Strengthening Families is more a way of approaching our work so we can integrate it into early care and education, into child care settings, into parent education classes or home visiting. It really just becomes a part of what we do instead of a specific program or model.
The biggest disconnect, I think, from the average mom and dad is, where do I go in times of need? What are my support services? So we took the protective factors, we took the Strengthening Families plan and integrated it in a concrete way with our staff. First, we trained our staff members on what the protective factors were, what the vision of the group was, to make Kansas the best place for children, and then in a practical way integrate it so it was useful. An example of that is we trained all our staff on the Parents Helpline, which is sponsored by the Kansas Children's Service League. And it's a 24-hour-a-day access for parents that have just about any question about parenting.
Strengthening Families makes sense policy-wise because I think it takes a good research-based initiative and we can scale it to any type of program around for children and families. And I think from a policy perspective, to have that kind of flexibility in thinking about doing something is rare.
There is not a dedicated Strengthening Families funding stream. Strengthening Families in Kansas really has been integrated to a number of other funding sources. Grantees are asked to show how their work fits in with the Kansas Strengthening Families plan.
What policymakers need to realize is that this is a very practical, non-expensive way to connect the different agencies, the municipalities, and nonprofit sector to make a difference in children's lives.